Hello and welcome to Get a Life Moment with myself, Lisa Davies. And I am delighted today to be joined by the multi-award winning author and game producer and a personal mentor of mine, the fabulous Tiffany Crosara. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here. It's brilliant to see you doing this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, with all my guests, I kind of want to know what brought you to this point. Tell us a little bit about Tiffany and your journey.
Okay. And it's interesting, like how you introduced me, because I think most people don't really know how to introduce me. In fact, I've only just learned how to introduce me and what I do. And it's been a long, long time of getting there. I've been self-employed in this genre since 2003. I opened a shop up in Camberwell. Do you know Camberwell?
I don't know it well. I know it's in London, but you know, being a country bumpkin, that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah, okay. It's in, I guess you could say, a bit of a dodgy area in London. So you can probably kind of understand. We were right next door to the methadone clinic and 2 minutes away from the Maudsley Centre, which is one of London's largest psychiatric units.
So an interesting place to start your business then.
It is, and was, because I hadn't read, because I guess I had a past life in this life as a standard tarot reader. Mm-hmm. And that was how I launched my business into doing tarot. I just opened up a shop and just went for the whole hog. And my first client asked me where her head was.
I like that. That's an interesting client to have. Yes. I mean, I could say the same. Where's my head at most of the time? But yeah.
It was like, I said to her, do you mean your spiritual head, your emotional head, or your physical? No, I didn't say physical. I said your mental, emotional, spiritual. What do you mean? But she did actually mean her physical head,
like her literal head. Where is my head?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. And I was like, oh God, I've really jumped into the deep end here. And I'd had a very challenging personal journey with tarot as well. And so that was the beginning of, I need to fast forward, but it was the beginning of like 10 years of reading for society in one way or another. The shop lasted 3 years, and then I went on to read in Mysteries in Covent Garden. I wrote a book. The book got an award that got me on TV doing live readings, and it was the same everywhere. I mean, what I just said was extreme as a first client, but it set the precedence for the whole journey of like, where's my head at, and the unhealthy energy that came with being a reader and society not really understanding how tarot is a mirror of the soul, and it's connected to divine timing, and you can't control that or manipulate that, or it's more about how do you actually work with a humility to the divinity to actually really get to a place of knowing that you're going to be okay whatever you go through. And I was just pretty burnt out by the end of it and lost. And then I went through 2 years of crisis, and that's why I know now how to introduce myself. But yeah, it's been
so how would you introduce yourself
now? I would say that my name is Tiffany Crosara. I am an inner transformation specialist that specializes in helping intuitives tune back into themselves, because they've spent so long tuned into everything but themselves. They don't know who they are, what they want, what they need. They have no idea how to articulate that to other people. And so the life they dreamt of with the purpose and the passion and the partnerships when they first began the spiritual path it doesn't ever really manifest, not until they've got that part inside of themselves first. So that's what I do at the core of everything, whether I write a book or the game or a retreat or an online program. That there is the gem of what I do.
Which is really interesting, because anybody listening to this who doesn't know a lot about tarot, they might have pictures of it like, I don't know, I'm going to show my age here, you know, Tales of the Unexpected, or, you know, tarot cards in James Bond films and stuff, where it's all really dark and, you know, or predicting lottery wins or tall, dark, handsome strangers. And of course, that's not what we're talking about here at all, is it?
No, and that's where we have, I think, a very shared passion, isn't it? Because I think it's very hard to actually find someone in the world that actually gets it, that actually gets what the tarot really is and how to actually really work with it in a way that really opens up your divinity. And I feel that you are a kindred spirit on that front.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, to put it into straightforward layman's terms, I think obviously you produced the game, and we've been connected for years. Sort of like, it's kind of like sliding doors. We've kind of kept coming in and out of each other's awareness. But it was only when the game was produced that I got in touch and went, this is fantastic. And I think, putting it in real simple terms, it's like a coach in a box, isn't it?
That's exactly the tagline. It's a coach in a box, because people come to the game. I'll show you.
Yeah, I've not got my copy available, but there we go. Beautiful game, yeah.
Yeah. And people come to this and they want to play it like it's a reading, you know?
Right, yeah.
And it's like, that's why the tagline says it's a coach in a box. You know, there's nothing predictive about it. You travel the journey of the tarot. And I should open this one up. It's mine. I've got one that's not opened. And you travel the journey in the tarot, the fool's journey, which is the hero's journey, you know. And that basically shows you what to work on, and you've answered it yourself, haven't you? It's like it asks you the questions.
Yeah.
The divinities ask you the questions rather than the other way around. You come up with the answers.
So really, I guess, I mean, we both work in the tarot in the same way, which is why you've now become a mentor of mine as well, in that we hold the answers within ourselves, and those archetypes in the tarot are truly an outward mirror reflecting to us that inner work that we need to do. And that's the beauty of it. And in some ways, I don't know whether you'd agree with this, there's nothing wrong with traditional readers. And, you know, I know lots of great traditional readers, but in my experience, having done that in the past, like yourself, it can actually breed disempowerment in the individual, whereas the way we're talking about it and the way that you are so passionate about using that as a mirror, using tarot as a mirror, it empowers people. Would you agree with that statement?
I don't know, I'm pretty controversial. So I'm going to bust things right open now, quite literally, not just
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, in my past life, I was a reader, and I think the problem with that type of reading is I've done a lot of studies into why my life as a reader was full of chaos and drama. Personally, like, I actually had clients that behaved, and not a lot of readers have that, because there's a lot of boundary issues and codependency, and it's exactly, you know, somehow I put something out which was like, don't cross that line. And I didn't have like clients ringing me up in the early hours of the morning demanding that they have a reading right now. Or
is he coming back? Is he coming back?
Exactly. None of that happened, thankfully.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of readers do have problems with that. And that is the problem. If people are looking to you for answers, for predictions, and so, yeah, I know, like, a lot of society says, and there are two camps. There's the Transformational Tarot camp, which isn't so well known. There's the Predictive Tarot camp. And it would be lovely if we could all find a way to be, you know, cohesive. But I've actually got to stand really strong and say, from what I've seen and from my experience, I see transformative tarot actually heals all the issues that I've spoken about with intuitives, and predictive tarot embeds it. So I just got to stand really strong on that point, and maybe it's safer from screen these days. I'm not in the stocks having eggs thrown at me, so.
You know, I would absolutely agree. I think it's far more empowering to work in that way, in a much more a coaching, a mirror type relationship with the tarot. And, you know, I know yourself as well as me, we're both kind of trained therapists and coaches as well. So actually drawing on that experience of what you might have called intuitive, more predictive experiences in the past. Actually, if there's something intuitively that we're picking up, I don't know about yourself, I would say, would you like me to share any observations? You know, I'd ask before I mirrored anything, but I would as a coach. You know, I'd ask for permission before giving feedback as a coach. So
yes, it's you've really hit one of the main issues on the head. I think even when people go for a reading, it doesn't mean they've actually given you permission to talk into every aspect in your life and in their life. And as an intuitive, we transgress boundaries. It's what we do. It's why we can pick up on other people's stuff, because we have really poor boundaries. And you might have had the experiences where a medium or a psychic has just come up to you and started reading, even though you've not sat down for a reading. They've just met you and gone, have you had that?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Well, again, it's that boundary thing, isn't it? And, you know, I think it's an evolution in yourself as an intuitive, like, you know, like you're saying, it's an evolutionary process. And I think I find it far better to kind of say, so, okay, so looking at this picture in front of you, looking at this story in front of you, what gifts is that giving you? What can you see there? And actually drawing out like a coach, just like a coach, and then saying, would you like some feedback from me? Only if somebody becomes really stuck, and it might potentially be helpful, but never giving that feedback without permission. It's what we teach when I teach people how to coach. It's exactly what I would do in traditional mainstream coaching. So yes, why would this be any different?
Yes, it's deeply ingrained, isn't it, that tarot readers are people that you go and see, and they tell you all about your life, and they have the answers for you. But just if you think about the Oracle of Delphi, you know, over the top of that, it says, know thyself. And it wasn't like, cross my palm with silver and I'll tell you about the tall, dark, handsome stranger you're going to marry. It's just that tarot has had such a bad rap over the years for many reasons. Some people say Constantine, it goes back to those days, and all the, you know, the high priests, they had divinatory breastplates. But it was like, it's secret and it's for the higher, it's not for the common people. So it's a way to keep them disempowered, is to keep them away from knowing thyself, because if they do, then there's no controlling what can happen. So
But it's a beautiful tool, isn't it? And it's an ever-evolving journey, which takes me on to that. You mentioned earlier, not only in the game, but also in your books, you talk about the journey, the fool's journey, or the hero's journey, likened to Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to, is the journey. So I'll show you. Luckily there's no farting noises. Usually when I take the lid off the box, there's a farting noise.
It just makes for entertainment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But I've made
special sound effects.
Yeah, I kind of changed the box a little bit. So I really didn't need to tell you that, did I? It's like when somebody says to you, well, your dress looks great, and you're like, yeah, I got that from the charity shop for £2. Like,
you see, I would say that because I love supporting charity and feeling like I'm recycling. So I am that's a woman after my own heart. If somebody tells me that, I'm like, fabulous.
Yeah, be proud in it. I totally I'm the same. Like I put this dress on today, and I thought, you know what, this feels like Lisa's kind of style a bit.
Yeah.
You know? And charity shop. Most of my clothes are charity shop.
I think that's great because you're recycling and also giving to charity. I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So here we have the game. Yes.
Right, okay. Can you see the journey?
We can see the journey, yeah, absolutely.
You know it, so you might have to. I've only got 2 hands here. I guess I can't reach through the screen.
Okay, so what you can see there is all of the 22 major arcana cards laid out in order, because they run from 0 to 21, from the Fool through to the World, and I'll let you explain what that means. So you can see that in that circular. So you're moving in a circular, ever circular pattern.
That's right. So the Fool is down where those double doors are there, and that's where you start. So basically you put your counters there, and you have to throw a double or a triple. There's 3 dice, and you have to throw a double or a triple to get born. And getting born means it's like, to get born you have to have a purpose, just like we get born with a purpose. I think, do you know that? Is it Gary Vondercheck? Have I said it right? Do you know?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Check, I think it is. It's a statistic about we are one in something stupid, like 400,000 trillion. Don't quote me on the exact number, but it's massive.
Big number, massive number. Yeah.
That got born. Yes. And so, we have to have a purpose. And so you're throwing to get that number and that activation, that spark of life. And then the numbers guide you around the board and wherever you land on, because for those of you that aren't clear on the hero's journey, I've probably got a better example that shows you how the tarot fits with the hero's journey, but it does fit numerically with the hero's journey, from the call to adventure, which is the Fool, to meeting the mentor, which is the magician, to crossing the threshold even, which is the high priestess. And it just goes round in this circle until you get the gift and return home. And the hero's journey is what's behind every good story, like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, because it's the journey of us and our life. And so you do it. When you play the game, you do that journey, and you get to see, by the parts of the journey that you land on, the archetypes come alive. They ask you a question, and you, to pass and move forward, have to get the answer. And so you then end up as the hero.
But it's not just an answer that you it's the right or wrong answer. Well, it is in a way, because the game plays with you. It coaches you through, having played it several times. So you're posing your own questions and your own answers to yourself, and you're coaching yourself to say, am I on the right track? But the answers are coming from within you, and the archetypes are acting as those coaches, aren't they?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
It's 22 coaches in a box.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. So there's something else you do with this journey, and I know that you've got one coming up because I've experienced it, and you've got another one coming up. So you're doing the 0 to hero, so people can really feel what it's like to embody these archetypes and live them, and it's incredible. If you have got any desire to do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. I've done several journeys now, and it really does shift you forward. It's not just something to do that's a bit of fun. It really does challenge you to, it's self-development when all said and done. So tell us a little bit about the 0 to hero and its key point in time with the solstice as well.
Yes. Okay, so the next one is on the solar eclipse on the summer solstice. We've got a solar eclipse in Cancer on the summer solstice. I actually didn't do that on purpose because I tend to do this a lot. I just put things in and then later I'm like, oh, that's on that date. So it feels pretty aligned, because to me the summer solstice is very much about the high point of your clarity for your journey of the year. It's the height of the sun, which is it's our birthright. It is our birth sign, you know, our sun sign. It's our reason for being here. It's our purpose. And the fact we've got a solar eclipse on that day as well is phenomenal. It just powers
shine a light on it, shine a light.
Yeah, and so the journey kicks off that day, and it's a 22-day journey where you're living it. You don't need the game. You don't even need tarot, to be honest, do you?
No.
Which is the beauty of it. All you need is to be able to take a screenshot of a card that resonates with you. You don't even need to stay with one deck. So you could just Google the full tarot, look at the image, press images, and get the one that really, that's the most important thing about this type of course. It's different in like the Transformational Truth of Tarot, which is my high end, you know, let's really mean business around this stuff. But in 0 to hero, the fun of it is that you have the freedom to just go, actually, yeah, the picture of this card really resonates with me today. And you can change from deck to deck, you know, different, it's about that resonance with the picture, because it's amazing how the picture can literally play out in your day, is it not?
It is. Oh yeah, I picked some right corkers in some of I've done. I had one where it was quite a jagged card, and I thought it was I think it was an emperor day actually, and he was a really sort of like jagged, sexy emperor, and I thought, oh yeah, I really like him. And then I got an almighty migraine, all these jagged, So they can be quite literal. But this is less about learning the tarot. It's not like learning the tarot out of a book. And people who know who've been reading my storytelling or have been involved in learning a bit of storytelling with tarot with me, it's not about learning the tarot, like learning the meanings from a book. This is embodying and living them for your own development, isn't it?
That's right. So it might sound like, how can like a screenshot on my screensaver on my phone of a picture have that much power to play out, like giving you a jagged migraine? And why would I want to do that? And
it doesn't happen. There's some wonderful bits as well. Let me just say, there are some great things and some great discoveries, but I just think it's quite funny that it can be very literal.
It can be very literal, which is why I was stressing, like, choose the picture that resonates with you. And okay, yes, sexy emperor may well resonate for a woman, but So
Oh,
but maybe there was another reason that of like the migraine having to come forward or come out or something along those lines, so that you're on your path in some way.
Yeah,
And
like stopping doing what I was doing. That's probably, it's a bit like, whoa, stop the bus. You're on the wrong journey, you know, sort of thing. Hey, who knows?
that is a very key thing about Emperor Day, actually. If he is like, actually, you're putting your energy in building the wrong empire, he will pull the rug from underneath your feet. Yes?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to have that one on my team because he's working for the other team. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, scratchy record. So needle across the record. So this is a very key, it's a very key example when we look deeper, and you might be thinking like, well, what, how, like, does that actually happen? But that is the magic of the archetypes, and it's just a case of actually going, well, then I'm just going to give it a go and see for myself. And
so why would somebody choose to do the journey? I mean, I know why I did, but you know, if people are listening to this and they're thinking, well, I thought about learning tarot, or I don't know anything about tarot, and they're kind of listening to us and thinking, I'm going to embody these photographs and live them for myself development. Why would they choose to do this? What do you think they might gain from this experience?
So we're going back to the Temple of Delphi again, and what it says above it, which is know thyself. Socrates saying that's the most important but hardest thing to do. And it's like you said, Lisa, you know, they are a reflection of what you need to know. Like you said, you've done many journeys now, because every time you do the journey, it's different. It's like Joseph Campbell's book was called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Wherever he went in the world, there was this same story or same God, but it had 1,000 faces. And this is what you do. You go into the journey, and whatever face of you need to see at that time to get the messages to get you back on track is what shows up.
So thinking about the journey then, coming back to your journey, and obviously we're talking about a get a life moment. What was that moment for you? What was that get a life moment for you in terms of the tarot that made you think, yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to change something? What was that moment for you?
I think it was probably the moment I walked into Psychic Today, which was where I was doing readings on, you know, on the TV, and I had been doing it for a while. And I walked into the studio and I said, I've got it. It was like a eureka moment. And I said, I've got it. And they looked at me and I was like, I'm not a reader. And they looked at me and they said, no, you are. Like, you've been reading here for a couple of years now. We've seen you do it. What you want about? You're not a reader. I was like, I'm not. And I didn't know who I was then. I've always known that my passion was in tarot, but because there's this society that says that tarot is kind of outlawed anyway, and the only thing that you can possibly kind of do on that outlaw fringe is be a reader, I kind of fell in to that. And then it was like, actually, no, this isn't what I am. And so I had to go on my own fool's journey and discover what, you know, get to this point where I can introduce myself. And that's taken me 6 years. At that point. Point.
So thinking about get a life moment then, what would be your top tip for people listening today then?
Can I say, you can put this in the outtakes if you want, I don't mind what you do with it, right? But can I just say, peeps, Lisa said to me before we went live, she said, at the end, I'm going to ask you for a get a life tip, so I'm not just springing that on you. Just like, I think that's springing it on me. And then I thought, you know what, it'll come through with what we're talking about. But as soon as you've said it, I've drawn a blank. A Leo, Tiffany, me, with nothing to say. That's unheard of. It's so funny. Okay, so a get a life moment. It's like, which one do I actually choose from? It's got to be to do with the hero's journey. And I guess there's so many quotes. If you just go on to Google and you put in Joseph Campbell, hero's journey, your quotes, you'll get probably one that says, you know, the treasure is in the cave that you fear to enter, a bit like Star Wars. And he was friends with George Lucas, and, you know, there was that literal cave for Luke Skywalker. But I think really the one is going to be, and I don't think I'm going to quote him because I can't remember the quote offhand, but it is about rising to the call to adventure, because you're not here to have, you're not here to do something that doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing is that people try to find that on the outside, and maybe there is that on the outside, but if you're feeling like you're not fitting whatever you do, and you keep looking for that on the outside, then really it's about coming within and finding out who you are, and being able to embrace that call to adventure, that first step in the hero's journey, to go on the journey and live your purpose. So it's not really a quote. It was around the houses kind of way of saying
that's fine. So if somebody wants to step up to that call to adventure, how would they go about that then, Tiffany? How can they step on to the zero to hero as their first call?
Okay, I'll need to give you a link, but it depends the time that people are watching this. If it's before Friday, it's not going to be before Friday, is it? You're not that super speedy, superwoman.
Yeah, it'll be up today.
Okay, then I'll give you the link for the early bird, because the early bird goes out on Friday, but you have to put your name down or you don't get it.
Right, okay, so we'll put that on when we post it up. If you give me the link, and I'll put that up, but it's got to be before Friday, folks.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me for a Get a Life moment this morning, and dispelling some of the myths about tarot, and also allowing people to understand a little bit more about you. It's been
Thank you so much for providing the opportunity, Lisa. It's always lovely to connect with you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks.